Hi everyone, I'm Linda Loveland with this week's NC Farm Bureau Report. We actually have an update from last week. We talked about the Property Protection Act. Well, there's been some new news with that. Jake Parker, General Counsel for the Farm Bureau, is joining me now. So there's been some movement on the case, not what we'd hoped for, unfortunately.
No, not what we hoped for at all. The U.S. Supreme Court denied our petition for review of the Fourth Circuit's opinion in the Property Protection Act case. It's certainly disappointing, I think I said that, but it's also troubling because the Fourth Circuit's opinion is really bad. And farmers are now vulnerable to undercover investigators on their farms, and so are all other businesses in the state. So not a great day for us.
Some serious implications, really, for this. And, you know, this has such widespread implications in the country that, you know, for me at least, it was a shock. I mean, I can't figure out why they decided, no, it's not really worth our time.
Yeah, the court it makes its own decisions on what it does, and they are in private conferences, and so you don't exactly know what's happening inside that black box. They only take about 50 or 60 cases out of thousands that are filed, so we're not going to really ever get an answer as to why they didn't want to take the case. There could have been reasons that you know, it wasn't the right vehicle, or they just didn't want to deal with the issue. You don't really know. But again, you have to go back to what the last opinion was, and that opinion says that the Property Protection Act, which is supposed to protect people against folks who come to a job and they don't have a real bona fide intent of working, they want to set you up or do something like that, that those folks can now argue that the First Amendment, if they're engaged in speech activities,
news gathering, right?
News gathering, First Amendment activities, that law doesn't apply to them.
So moving forward, what does this mean for everybody? And what do we do moving forward?
What we do in the short term is, and we've been advising farmers and business owners, make sure you've got really good employment law or policies in place. Make sure that folks don't have, you don't allow them to have access to an iPhone in a hog barn or something like that. You're keeping up with the way you ask questions and who you hire and who you interview. And it's really unfortunate that we have to take those steps now, but people need to protect themselves. So there are things they can do in the short term that will protect it. Second thing is, we're going to go to the legislature and ask them to try to fix this.
And this won't be a short-term thing, so this will obviously take some time. Any kind of estimate of how long something like that could potentially? Our
lobbyists and folks who work with the legislature, the short session, the long session's wrapping up. They're just doing redistricting. So we'll go into the short session in May of next year and try to convince the legislature to do some things to help protect farmers.
Well, we appreciate all you did, because I know how hard you guys worked on this and all the stories that went out, the opinion pieces and all of that. So there was a lot of effort that went into this. It's a shame.
We got farther than most and felt good about the arguments we made. I like to harken back to the idea that the Supreme Court isn't infallible. It's just the last stop. And so I don't know that they got it right, but they have the right to pick and choose the cases they want to hear, and so we didn't make the list. But
we had a lot of support going into that too, which
we
was
did.
Good.
Lots of groups, North Carolina Chamber, retail merchants, national groups, American Farm Bureau. Lots of people rallied to our cause, so we weren't alone in that effort.
All right, thanks, Jake. Appreciate the update.
Thanks, Linda. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you next week for another NC Farm Bureau Report.